Welcome in. Today we're taking a look at an epic science fiction space game from Awakened Realms. That is ISS Vanguard. Oh my gosh, this box is so big it's hard to even get it all on the screen. But anyway, we're going to take a look at this epic campaign game. I'm going to tell you how it plays solo and give you some of my thoughts. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up? I'm Jared. Welcome to Specifically Solo. This is a channel where we focus on solo gaming and solo modes for board games. And today, like I said, we're going to take a look at ISS Vanguard by Awakened Realms. Now, this is an epic space campaign game where you are traveling with a crew on the ISS Vanguard. It is a big space station and you are going around the galaxy and exploring all of these different planets and creating a lot of different things. You're upgrading your ship as you go, you're upgrading your space station, and you're also discovering a lot of different things on these planets and also fighting some bad guys from time to time. So, how does it play solo? I'm going to give you an overview right now without any spoilers, but if you want to skip ahead, I'll give you a time code to go to. But here's an overview of how ISS Vanguard plays. So here we have ISS Vanguard set up, and this is the tutorial mission, but if you still don't want to see any spoilers, I'll put a time code at the bottom so that you can skip ahead. But this is in the rule book, this exact setup and these exact characters that we're using, so I don't think I'm going to spoil anything for you. I've also left certain cards off the table, just so you don't see those at all either. I'm just going to give you kind of a really basic overview of how gameplay works for ISS Vanguard. So ISS Vanguard at its core is a dice game. Dice manipulation and dice checks are kind of the name of the game here in this phase of the game, which is the planetary exploration. There's also the shipbook phase of the game, which we'll go over here in just a second. So there are 4 sections that you can play as in ISS Vanguard. We have the science and also the engineering section set up right now, but there's also the recon section right here, and there's the security section right here that you can play as. Now, when you play solo, you have to play as at least 2 of those sections. You can play as all 4 if you want to. I haven't done that. I've just played as 2, and so I'm going to show you kind of the minimum setup that you would need. You'd have to control at least 2 characters even when you play by yourself. And all of the characters have a little box here that they come with that includes their section cards and also the dice that they use for their particular section. And in addition to that, there's a lot of cards in ISS Vanguard. So you're going to have these 2 big card decks. Again, I'm not going to show you anything, but these are one of the decks that you would use, or one of the containers that you would use. That's a lot of stuff for the ship phase of ISS Vanguard. And then there's also this deck and container, which you're going to use for a lot of the things that you encounter on the planets. So you will need those throughout the course of your play, and I always just leave them right here over here on the table. So in addition to that, every character has a standee or a mini because it's an Awakened Realms game, of course. So you can use any of the ones that come in the box, and I just have the base game here. All these are base components. None of this is upgraded or Kickstarter exclusive or anything like that, but these are the 2 that we have out here for right now. And then we also have our character cards here on our boards, and so they allow you to have special abilities that you can do during the course of the campaign, and also you can spend what are called charges. So we're not really going to go over that here in the overview. That's something that comes up a little bit later on in the campaign, but just know that every character is unique and a little bit different and has a little bit different ability. So what you will do is there's a couple of different actions that you can do on your turn. Luckily, you get a nice little reference card here, which kind of has an overview of everything that you can do. So you're going to do 2 actions on your turn. You can travel, you can rest, you can prepare, you can lift off, or you can do the special action, and that can only be performed once per turn. Then once your turn's over, you would normally have one of these out here too. You would have, this says turn available. On the other side, it says, your turn's over, and you have to draw an event card. This is also helpful. It comes with this as well, just so you can keep track of if you have 2 actions left on your turn or 1 action left on your turn, and kind of switch that between the characters that you're playing as. So we'll go ahead and start with the special action, which each space is different for the special actions in ISS Vanguard, but they're all going to involve dice checks. So this space right here, a little bit hard to say, but it says I can gain 1 success token if I have at least 3 dice that I am using. And I will actually pick this up just so you can see it a little bit better. But right here in the corner of this, you can see there that space right there is the one I'm referring to. Gain 1 success token and then replace this card with another card for that particular space. This space needs either one of these 3 icons. Then you would also gain a success token and replace that card with another card. So if we go back and we have our characters on these 2 spaces here, say we were going to have the yellow character and we were going to do the special action with them. Well, we would pick out what dice we want to use, and in this particular dice check, if you will, any dice works basically to advance this tracker that we have right here. So if we take 3 of these dice, say we take, our 2 red ones and a green one possibly, and we're just going to give them a roll. And so we've got this, which is a wild symbol that can be used for anything. We've got this symbol, and we've also got this symbol, which is just going to be a base symbol, but every character also has on here, if you roll that of a certain color, it can be transformed into a different symbol. So like for her, if it was a blue one, if we had rolled this per se, we could change it to that icon and use it as it was that icon. This being the tutorial, the icons don't matter a ton. It's just kind of tell you how to play the game. So we've got basically 3 successes here. So that's the first kind of thing that you would do is you would take these 3 cubes here and put them on here. And then when you were to get a 4th success, you would replace that card. Now we could have used more dice if you wanted to. So I rolled 3 dice here, but actually what I would probably want to do is roll 4 dice so that I can go ahead and complete that. So we'll go ahead and roll this one, and we've got an exclamation point symbol. And normally those are bad. In this case, it's going to be okay though, because we only rolled 1. So we'll put 1 marker on that and then 1 on that. And so that is officially completed. So you would gain a success token, and then you would replace that card with the other card, which I'm not going to do here just so there's no spoilers. And then you would move to the next thing. Now, that was a special action. So what other action can we do on our turn? Well, we could travel if we want. And for this particular mode of travel, to go from here to here, we'd have to spend a die. This is telling you that you would abide by what's on the other side of this page, which might be different travel conditions depending on the map that you are playing. And this particular book has a lot of different planets on it. So let's say we're going to go ahead and travel. Well, we would just take this die and we would spend it. In this case, we don't have to roll it because it's just saying to spin this die. This one we might have to. And we'll see that when we move this character here in just a second. So you'll just move this one over there. And then as it says here, you would go to log 311, read what was there. It's probably going to be a card that comes out and gets put on the table. And then this is done. And again, you would be replacing that card if you were actually playing the campaign and the tutorial mission of the campaign. So for this one, it's kind of the same thing where you're going to have to roll either one of this, or these icons. And the tutorial kind of sets you up in a way that you'll be successful at that. Now, for this particular character, we actually don't have any of those icons. So we would probably take this character and use them in that situation. But let's just say we have one of these die that have a Vanguard symbol on it. So let's say we rolled, and then when this character is done, these dice go to the spent pool and we'll have to refresh, which I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So let's say we rolled these. In fact, we just happen to get 2 Vanguard symbols. So we are 2 successes here. So we've accomplished this, and then we would gain a success token and replace that card with the card that is telling us there. And then these dice would go to the spent pool. Now, if you want to travel from this space to that space, we've got to open this all the way back up again to see what it's showing us on the other side of the page. So we have this character who is right here, and we have this character who is right here. And this is telling us for this condition, you can either spend a die or roll the danger die to move to a connected sector. Well, there's no reason to roll the danger die yet because we have enough dice available that we really don't need to do that at this particular point in the game. So we'll just spend a die and we'll go over here and then you would read log 227. So that is the travel action and the special action actions. Now, I'll go ahead and also show you the rest action, and we'll do it for this character since it's their turn again, and you have all 5 of your dice. Also, normally you would draw an event card at the end of your turn. Sometimes those events are good, sometimes those events are bad. It just really depends. In the tutorial, it's going to kind of set you up so that mostly good events are happening, and it has certain event cards that you use for the tutorial, and a certain mission card as well that is not out here. Same with Unique Discovery. Again, I just didn't want to give any spoilers away. So we have the rest action here. So you would have your lander out here if you were playing a campaign game, and you have a certain number of supplies on your lander that you can use throughout your mission. Well, in the tutorial, you have unlimited supplies, so you have as many supplies as you need to refresh as many times as you need to. So you would refresh half of your total number of die, rounded up. So this character has 5 die. Every character starts with the same amount of dice at the beginning of the campaign, and that continues throughout the course of the campaign, where if you are to get more dice, all characters will still have the same number. So you'll all be even for whatever character that you decide to use, and whatever 2 characters when you're playing solo. So we'll refresh half of these dice. Let's say we just do 1 of each color just to make it look nice. And that's the refresh action. Now, we could travel again. We could prepare. Also, when you refresh, you get to draw 1 section card. And each rank that this character is has a certain number of section cards that they have as their limit. So when you start out as a rank 1, you can only have 2 at a time. Then if you go up to rank 2, you can get 3. And rank 3, you can get 4. So you'd have to pick one of these 2 cards that you would want to get rid of. Well, this says during a dice check, reroll 1 die. This says during a dice check, reroll 1 die. Those are basically pretty similar cards for the top action, so we'll go ahead and just discard one of those and put it in our discard pile. Now, the other action that you can do is you can prepare, and that's just allowing you to draw a section card and also, if you want to, make a dice check to trigger combinations. So when you have things at the bottom of your card here, if you get those particular dice, you can do that particular action during a dice check. So this one says place any crew member in your sector, immediately go to the spin dice step of this dice check if you were to roll something and got an icon like that face up. So that's what you can do during the prepare action. You can also lift off, of course, if you're back where your ship is and you are there, you can decide that you want to lift off. Now, there will be penalties if not all characters are there for the lift off, but if everybody is there and everybody decides that they're done with this particular mission, then you can, lift off and basically end the mission. Then you also have exertion, which is when you don't have any dice to spend, but you need to spend a die. You can sacrifice a die, and you can also refresh 5 dice in that situation. So that's a basic overview of planetary exploration of ISS Vanguard. And you'll continue to go through, and you'll continue to go to these different spaces. You would have an objective out here with your mission that you're trying to accomplish. You're spending dice, you're refreshing. It's a big game of using your cards to basically manipulate your dice, and then also making sure that you've got enough refreshes available and enough actions that you can do all the things that you want to do for your particular mission. Now, the other part of the game, when you are done with your planetary exploration, is you go and use this ship book. And this is a big binder with lots of different stuff in it. And I have some things in here that I've gone through for the campaign, so I'm not going to show you those, but you can see you have how to resume a saved game right here, if we can get it on the camera, and then you can see everything through there. You can see all the different steps that you were to go through when you are going through the ship book. And then one really cool thing that you get to do in the ship phase of the game is you get to use your ship facilities. So there's lots of different places that you can go and spend actions to do things like the situation room, the barracks, the research laboratory, the production complex, and a facility that you'll get when you progress throughout the campaign. And the ship book does a really nice job of kind of laying out how to do all of those particular steps, and you'll do them all, and then you'll prepare for another planetary exploration. There's about half that you do right after you're done with the planetary exploration, and at that point, once you get done with those few phases of the ship book, you can decide you're going to save your game there, or you can continue, go to the beginning of the ship book and start from there and do all those steps in order, and it really does a nice job of leading you through everything. So that's a basic overview of how to play ISS Vanguard. So now I'm going to share with you some of what I'm calling my initial thoughts or first impressions of ISS Vanguard. I've played about 10 hours at this point. I've gone to a couple of different planets. I've done the ship phase and the planetary exploration phase a couple of different times. I've played with all 4 sections that are available in the game. So what do I think of the game so far? Well, first off, I think this is a game that works really well solo. In fact, I think that might be the best way to play it because you get to make all the decisions. If you were playing this with multiple people at the table, you would say, okay, what if your character traveled over there and maybe your character should do that dice check because you have better die. And also it just is going to go faster because when you read from that logbook, you don't have to read out loud if you don't want to. You can if you want. And there's also an app that has it all voice acted in there. But that's even going to go faster because you don't have to listen to the whole story. You don't have to make decisions as a group. It's just you, and you can kind of get through a mission in a faster amount of time. Now, in the instructions, they tell you that a mission is normally going to take between 2 and 4 hours to complete, which I found that it's on the shorter side when you play solo. It's right around that 2-hour mark if you're playing by yourself. So not really bad at all for a mission of ISS Vanguard. And that's going through the entire phase. That's the planetary exploration phase. That's the ship phase. That's completing everything. I've found that most of my play sessions can get it done in about 2 hours. Also, when you're playing by yourself, if you have a nice spot where you can keep this set up for a long period of time, you can pause kind of whenever you want. Now, I wouldn't pause during planetary exploration. That's kind of hard to pause during that phase, but you could pause, you do all the stuff on the ship. It's about time to go to planetary exploration. You set everything up and you pause there. And then you come back maybe and you play that exploration for an hour, hour and a half or whatever. And then you get done with it. And then, you say, okay, we're back on the ship now. I'm going to pause here. There's a couple different points that feel natural where you could stop if you wanted to, which obviously wouldn't be the case if you were playing with a big group. And obviously, too, you have to be able to keep this set up somewhere for a longer period of time. So if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to stop there. But if you want to break this down into even like smaller chunks, you can do that with the way it works by playing solo. So, what are some of my kind of likes so far at this point through the campaign? Well, I think this game is fairly easy to understand. I didn't really have a lot of trouble with any of the rules. It's got a really nice index at the back with basically anything that you could think of. It'll tell you what page to go to. It's also got a list of all the icons in there, which they don't use a ton of icons, and the same icons keep coming up throughout the campaign. So once you know them, you've got them down pretty well. They all relate to usually dice, though, so it's not very hard to figure out those icons. Also, it does come with these, reference cards that are really nice. It goes through the process of doing a dice check, what you need to do for each round, the actions you can take. Those are really nice. I find myself referring to those a little bit as opposed to going through the instructions, which is always nice when you don't have to get the whole rule book out to look up something and figure out, hey, what do I do next when I do a dice check? Oh, it's right here on this card. I can just go through and look at it that way. So overall, rules are pretty straightforward. I've heard that's not the case with all Awakened Realms games. This is the first one that I've ever played, but I think for me personally, this kind of clicked pretty fast and was not hard to understand, and the tutorial is really great too in the terms of how it guides you through that first tutorial mission. It's got, hey, you're going to play exactly this card, and you're going to do exactly this, but this is going to give you an idea of how the mechanics of the game work. And also, it introduces more things, obviously, after that first tutorial, but it doesn't overwhelm you with stuff right away, which is nice. It lets you kind of ease into it a little bit. And even the first mission is not everything, obviously, that the game has to offer. And as you go, it kind of ramps up a little bit more. I like that, though. That is a very nice way for the player to get acclimated with the game without, throwing all this stuff of this epic campaign at you all at once. And it says it could take between 20 and 40 hours to complete. I think I'm probably going to be somewhere in that 30-hour range, maybe, just given the fact that I haven't been to a ton of planets yet. I've been to a couple, but there's so many that you can go and discover and explore, and they all come in a different book that you're going to be dealing with throughout the course of the campaign. Another obviously this game has great components. I already showed you some of the minis like we've got sitting out here on the table. This is Awakened Realms. This is what they're known for. They run these glorious game found campaigns with all kinds of upgraded components. But I'll say I have the base game right here. No Kickstarter stretch goals, no extra stuff. This is just the base game, and it looks really nice for the base game. The dice are all really high quality. They're nice and heavy and chunky. They feel good to roll. All the other stuff, the cardboard is very thick. These cardboard player mats, if you will, which is kind of what they're used for, are very nice as well. They've got the slots for the dice so they don't slide out. They've got the slots for the spent dice, and your little character card goes right in there in that section too. So that's really nice. Really good design decision there. The logbook is really nice. This Planetopedia, if that's what you're calling it, that it comes with, is really well done. Thick pieces of paper. This ship book has really nice slide-in slots inside of it. So yeah, no complaints component-wise here with anything that Awakened Realms is doing. And I think another like is that the two phases of the game are different enough that you're going to enjoy both of them. See, I really like both phases of the game. I like the exploration in terms of, oh, what is this going to discover? Or, okay, now it's going to have me read this log. Now we've got a new location here. Or this location changes. It was one thing, but now that we've discovered a little bit more, it's something else. Or if you come back to the planet, maybe a second time, it might change a little bit more. So I like that aspect of the game, and I really like the ship book phase of the game, or the ship management phase. All of that, getting to upgrade different things on your ship, getting new characters, completing research projects, production, getting mods for your spaceship, and also for this space station in general, is really cool. There's a really nice sense of progression there. I love that part of the game. I love when I get to go through the ship phase and kind of do all that stuff. I'm a very much like make a list and follow it type person. So the fact that it lays it out and it's like, you're going to go here and then you're going to do this and now do this. And there's all kinds of text in there that kind of guides you step by step. I love that. It's like following like instructions or a recipe or something like that. I just really enjoy that type of stuff. So I really love the ship book part of this game so far. Again, these are just my initial impressions. I haven't played through the whole thing. I'll probably do another video once I've completed the campaign. But overall, those are my likes for ISS Vanguard. Now, I do have a few negatives or a few dislikes here early on throughout the campaign. I could see how the dice checks could get repetitive as the campaign goes on, because the whole time you're just, you're picking up these dice, you're rolling them, you're seeing what you landed on, you're maybe modifying them with a card, and then you're doing it again. And then you're going to pick up the dice and roll them and that could get pretty repetitive, I feel like, over the course of maybe like 40 hours of going through this. So far it hasn't, and again, it's still early, but I think from that standpoint, I could see how that could get really repetitive and monotonous as we go through the campaign. But time will have to tell. They might change it up. They might do some different things with that. We'll have to wait and see. Also, sometimes this game is a little too punishing. There are times when you might gain an injury or you have to lose your dice. And the refresh method, when you are actually playing the game, you have a limited time of times that you can do that when you are in a campaign session of this game. And so that feels a little punishing at times. Like, I know it's supposed to be space exploration. There's supposed to be this sense of danger, and I totally get that. But I feel like sometimes it's just a little too much. Sometimes you'll have like 3 things happen on your turn and be like, oh my gosh, I drew this event and we lost this, and I got injured, and I spent 4 dice, but I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. Like, that just feels like a lot occasionally. But there are ways to mitigate it, obviously, with the upgrades and things and your cards that you have in your deck. But I wish it was just maybe a little less punishing. I really do like that exploration aspect, but sometimes it feels like it's just really trying to kick you down and, create some negative consequences for you. Another dislike is having to play with 4 characters seems like it would be too much, but having to play with 2 characters makes me feel like maybe I can't do everything that I want to do. So in the solo mode, you have to play with at least 2 characters. They can be any 2 characters that you want, except for the tutorial mission. You have to play with the science character for the tutorial. But for the rest of the campaign, you can pick whoever you want. And there's some things that'll come into play that'll kind of tell you what's going to maybe happen on certain planets, so you can pick characters that might be advantageous to doing well on those particular planets. But I think 4 characters would be way too many to manage, and would also make the sessions longer in terms of how many times can we do this, and there's more players to move and all of that type of stuff. And then 2 characters feels like, oh, sometimes I really wish I would have had the recon character, the security character this game, because they have better dice that would deal with this situation. And you just have to roll with what you have. So that's a dislike, I guess, a little bit. It hasn't really affected my campaign play too much so far, but it would be nice to be able to kind of have that whole pool available without having to do the management of 4 different characters all at once. And then my only other dislike, it's a minor thing, but these are like really big minis and they're really cool, but the spaces on the board are not that big. And so when you plop this down, or if there's 2 in one spot, plus maybe you have your ship standee on that same spot too, it gets very crowded and you have to move stuff to be able to see what you actually need to do on that particular space. Again, not a huge complaint, but if the spaces were just a little bit bigger, there could have been enough room for everything, and the text could have been big enough too. Also, another reason this would, I think, be hard to play with a group and not just solo is that the text on some of this stuff is kind of small. The planets, the text is very small in those spaces. The icons are very small. When you're playing by yourself, great, you could just put that in front of you and look right at it. But if you had like 4 people around the table, that would be very tough to be able to see that and see what you need to do to accomplish that dice check. But overall, I'm enjoying ISS Vanguard so far. I'm not going to give it a score right now because, again, this is just my first couple of sessions of the campaign. I've played about 10 hours, but I'm enjoying it. I really like space. I really like science fiction. I think this theme works really well with this. I also, like I said, really enjoy that ship phase of upgrading and getting new stuff and figuring out what's coming next. That's all very fun. So overall, I've had a great time with ISS Vanguard so far. We'll see how it goes throughout the rest of the campaign. Those are just some first thoughts and initial impressions on ISS Vanguard. Try to tell you if it's maybe the game for you. So thanks so much for watching. You can like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. And also, I've got a lot of other videos up as well, some other reviews and then some other list videos that you can check out. And until next time, I'm Jared. You've been watching Specifically Solo.